Good afternoon, friends. We are meeting again for this session, and we are meeting since last 3 months. I think we have learned a lot of basic things. We have learned regarding the acute conditions, regarding the simple conditions, how to tackle them with the help of homeopathic remedies, with the help of biochemic remedies, as well as few mother tinctures we have discussed up till now. A series of mother tinctures we were discussing since long time, and we have learned simple aspects to handle with the help of mother tinctures and biochemics and remedies. Today we'll go little bit ahead. A topic generally found to be difficult for people, and number of homeopaths fears to handle such cases, advanced cases, the pathologies, and that's why I want to discuss one important topic in today's sessions, because today morning only I have handled such a case. So I have considered it better to discuss about the leukemias today. What happens in early practice? We fear to take the cases of leukemias. Specifically, when we deal with the acute leukemias, yes, definitely the fear should be there, because acute leukemias are generally they are fatal more. They are lethal, in fact. But if you have case of a chronic leukemia, you can handle them very easily if you understand the leukemias very clearly. And my suggestion is that we have ample remedies to handle such types of cases. Lot of medicines, lot of acute medicines, lot of mother tinctures to tackle such cases. Why to fear? Only one thing is that you should have confidence to tackle all those cases. We fear because we don't understand the leukemias. We fear because we don't understand the pathology. We fear because of lack of confidence regarding the subjects. And that's why today I will going to share with you my understanding regarding the leukemia, and then with one mother tincture. So first important thing, what is exactly the leukemia is there? Where there is a fault? So leukemia is nothing but the primary neoplasia of the specifically the bone marrows as well as lymphoreticular tissues. So on the basis of that, they are differentiated basically. So if they are in the bone marrow, they are called as myeloid. If they are in the lymphoreticular tissues, they are called as lymphoid. So basic classification based upon where exactly it happens, on the basis of that you can differentiate the leukemia. So bone marrow, if it is there, it is generally called as an leukemia, and it is myeloid leukemia generally. And there are two varieties. There is one concept in number of students or with homeopaths or with the general practitioners, that leukemia there is increased WBC count, and that is the in fact wrong interpretation. There are two varieties of leukemias. In one variety there is increased WBCs, the count is increased, it is about 20,000 to nearly about 1 lakh or more than 1 lakh. That variety is called as a leukemia, where there is a leukocytosis. But in certain cases you get decrease in WBC count along with a leukemia, which is called as a leukemic leukemia. So one has to differentiate both the things. One is leukemia and one is a leukemic leukemia. When we think about the lymphoid tissue, it is called as a lymphoma, and lymphomas sometimes may turn towards the leukemic phase also. There might be a increased WBC count also, So there are two varieties of the leukemias, basically the bone marrow variety and lymphoid tissue variety. Then leukemia are classified into two types, the acute leukemia and chronic leukemia. When we find it out, the acute leukemia, there are number of blast cells. The premature cells are much more in number in acute leukemia, and that's why they are more fatal. Because if blast cells are more, the premature cells are there, they are functionless cells. And if they are functionless cells, automatically the infective process remains to be more because they are non-functioning, and because of non-functioning of the cells, the infective process leads towards the fatal or mortality, and that's why in acute leukemias the mortality rate is much more than the chronic leukemia. But second variety, whenever the chronic leukemia is there, there are very few blast cells. There are numerous cells on differentiation pathways for to granulocytes or lymphocytes. But this variety is not so fatal, not immediately causing a damage, because there are blast cells but which are comparatively less in number, and that's why this variety is a chronic. It remains for longer time of duration, affecting different tissues, different organs, but never causes directly a damage to the cells. So, acute variety, acute leukemia is definitely fatal. So, be careful while handling the acute leukemia. But if it is chronic leukemia, you can handle it with confidence because we have ample remedies. If you have confidence to treat the acute leukemias, it's well and good. If you don't, just wait for it, develop that, read number of remedies, understand the pathophysiology of homeopathic remedies, and then starts treating such types of leukemia. So first important classification which we have discussed, that there are acute variety and a chronic variety. Then leukemias are classified into two varieties, the myeloid variety, where cells of granulocyte series which gets proliferated increased over there, that is the from the bone marrow. And second variety, the cells of lymphoid series which gets affected over there, and this is called as a lymphoid leukemia. There are few more types but which are much more rarer. So rarer leukemias are monocytic, or rarer leukemias are of a plasma cells. They are very rarer, and that's why we're not going to consider rare. Actually, we must understand the varieties of leukemia, the types of leukemia, so that we can think about it, what remedy and how to approach in such types of cases. So homeopathic management we must think. Then the complications or what it causes. Basically, there is a destruction of RBC which is quite common over there, or sometimes there might be a production of RBC is also hampered along with that, and that's why anemia is one of the important presentation of it. Second important thing, the platelet count also gets hampered whenever the leukemia is there, and that's why there is thrombocytopenia leading towards the bleeding disorders. So bleeding is commonest manifestation. There might be bleeding anywhere, either from the nose, epistaxis. There might be it might happens from the eyes, or it might happens from the any organ. So this bleeding is one of the important feature of this disease. The third important thing which one has to understand in these leukemias, the complications, there is granulocyte phagocytic activity which decreases a lot, as well as there is decrease in lymphocytic immune response. Both the things, granulocytes they are fighting agents, your immune system, lymphocytes they are your fighting agents, and if their reactions gets disturbed, they becomes less active, automatically infection happens to be there. So infection is the result of this separation of WBCs, out of which granulocytes and lymphocytes, which are basic first fighting agents, and if they gets disturbed, their activity gets disturbed, infection is quite common, and that infection is always dangerous. If it is acute variety, then definitely this is lethal. If it is chronic, it's not that much of lethal or dangerous. And last complication which develops over there is nothing but the gout. You'll consider how this gout can occur in leukemia. It occurs because even in chronic myeloid variety or even in acute leukemias, there is increased cell proliferation. So there is marrow proliferation is there is a cellular proliferation is there, and because of active or increased turnover of that, the result product is the uric acid, and that's why there is much more increase in the uric acid levels over there, sometimes producing a features of a gout that is called as a clinical gout, but it is secondary because of overproduction of uric acid because of proliferation and destruction or turnover of the cells. So these are the complications. First is anemia, the second is thrombocytopenia, third is infection, the fourth is gout formation or increased uric acid level. So one must understand now that leukemia, when we are thinking, they are the primary neoplasia of the bone marrow as well as lymphocytic tissue, and they are classified into acute variety and a chronic variety. Acute is lethal, chronic is comparatively less lethal. So this is what we have learned up till now. Let us learn few important things, that where this metastasis can occur from this. So if a leukemia develops over there, the organs which gets involved commonly are the lymph nodes. So cervical lymphadenopathy or lymph nodes over there, and specifically in neck area, they are generally the site primarily develop over there. Spleen is second important thing which gets affected, and there is increased splenomegaly, a huge spleen which develops over there. Third important organ is the bone marrow. The bone marrow proliferation, bone marrow becomes affected over there. And fourth important site is the liver, that is liver sinusoids, which gets affected. So when we think about the leukemia, these are the primary organs which gets affected. And if you have a case like that there is a lymph node enlargement with a chronic infection which is not getting covered, sometimes there might be an epistaxis or any bleeding tendency with a tremendous weakness. Think about these pathologies, and if it is so, you can handle them with the help of your homeopathic remedy. So hepatosplenomegaly, sometimes it happens that liver cells might get atrophied also in long standing period. So both the things we have to look for in such types of cases, and these are the cases which you can treat with the help of a homeopathy. Then there is a how these are classified again. Acute leukemias, they are classified into two varieties. Specifically, if it is acute myeloid as well as acute lymphoblastic leukemia. So AML or ALL, it has been written whenever case of leukemia comes to you of acute, there it has been written AML. It is short form of acute myeloid leukemia. If it is ALL, it is called as acute lymphoid leukemia. So these are the classifications which one must know, and there are differentiations at that specific their level. We don't have to go into the depth of it because this much is sufficient at least for us to understand. Second important thing, that acute myeloid, they are again classified into two varieties. There might be a monocytic variety which is and promyelocytic variety. There are these two again further classified, but our treatment never depends upon that. That's why it's not necessary to go into the details of them again. Second important thing, the chronic variety. Whenever we think, the chronic variety is again divided into two varieties. When it is from the myeloid, that is from the bone marrow, it is chronic myeloid, so CML is written. Or if it is chronic lymphoid, from the lymphoid tissue, it is CLL. So we have learned the basics of leukemia today. So we have started with what exactly leukemia is there and the different varieties of leukemia. then how to approach towards those cases? I will share number of cases. I have treated number of cases of leukemia, and one case I think I have shared it with you in previous somewhere session, that I have treated that fellow who was just younger, very young, and suffering from the chronic myeloid leukemia, and he was there was a recurrence. He was treated earlier with the help of a chemotherapy at Tata Memorial. He was just 10 years old, 10 or 11 years old, and he was sent back because there was recurrence after 1 year, and he was in a unconscious state or semi-conscious state, and I was asked to see that fellow because his relative was my friend, and he asked me, Prasad, you do come, see, at least see the patient. His father and mother wants you to be there. We all know that he will not be there for a day or two. His condition is very worse. So I went over there. It's a long back. It's history nearly about in 1995. If I'm not wrong. So I went there. I saw that child who was in a semi-comatose state. I asked him name, or I tried to find it out the consciousness, but he was just moaning over there whenever I used to touch. And then his father and mother, they gave the history that 1 years back he was having a fever, and then we have treated that fever in one of the hospital in here in Sangamner, and he was better for a month, and thereafter again he had a fever, and then again we checked and then found that there is a blood cancer, and we shifted him to the Tata Memorial, and there was treatment going on, and he was better in between. We have given lot of blood for him, and he recovered. And now, just 1 month back, we went over there. He was having fever, and they checked blood, and when there was recurrence, the blast cells were lot of blast cells were there found in his blood. Then they said that you take this patient home, nothing can be done. So this was very typical case, and presentation was there. I never got anything specific over there except the splenomegaly, and it was huge splenomegaly in that case. So when I found it, that I would have not checked. It was when I just removed the cover or abdomen, removed the clothes. I saw that huge spleen, which was not necessary to palpate. So that was very important in that case. So depending on that and depending on my clinical knowledge, I have considered certain things. His count done just 4 days back. It was on 31st May. I have seen the patient on 4th of June, and the 31st May the count was done, and it was 2,31,000 WBCs, and he was in such a grave condition. So I asked his relatives to come to OPD, and I came to the OPD. I have gone through the remedies. One remedy which I was knowing, because I have seen such types of cases treated by our principal sir, Dr. MP Arya, when I was there in Dondumama Sate. So I saw that he has given Barata iodide to the patient. So that was there in my mind. So I opened the Barata iodide, and it was found that Barata iodide, that there is very specific, it has glandular affections directly. There is one important feature written over there: increased leukocytosis, given in italics in Borix Mutamid. So I have considered the first important remedy, Barata iodide, but unfortunately it was not there with me at that time. So I asked them to go for Nasik and bring the medicine, and they brought in the same day, and they have started the Barata iodide. Along with that, I have started him on one mother tincture that we're going to share, is nothing but the cyanothus. So this is what I have started. Barata iodide, I have given 36 doses, 3 on the same day, 3 on the next day, along with biocombination number 1 and cyanothus mother tincture. His blood HB hemoglobin was 3.4 on that day, and that's why I have started with the biocombination number 1 and cyanothus. And I said them, let us hope for the best. Let us see what happens. Even I was not sure. It was very, very early in my practice. So even I was not sure what will going to happen. There was little bit fear in my mind, but all of them were knowing that patient will not going to survive, and let us try with homeopathy, and that's why they came to me. To my surprise, on the 5th day or 6th day, the child was there in front of me in my OPD. He was fully conscious, and they came to me, and he was very happy on that day. It was a shock to me than them, because after starting these 6 doses and cyanothus mother tincture and biocombination number 1, he came out of the semi-comatose state. He started eating, and he gained the energy within span of 6 days. And then I asked to do a CBC, and I found that the WBC count was 3,400. It was a miracle. In fact, it was really a miracle for me. So 2,31,000 to 3,400 within span of 6 days after starting homeopathic medicine. It was really miracle for me, because he was not on any medicine. He was not taking any medicine, because he was shifted from Tata directly home since 1 month, and he was just in bed. So when he came to me, I was shocked, and I have checked that. Then he started getting fever. After 3-4 days, he started getting a typical fever with a rigors. Again, I have checked his blood. On the first day when I checked it, WBC count was 3,400, and hemoglobin was nearly about 6. So it was also a good thing for me. So I asked again to check it after 4-5 days, and when after 4-5 days his blood count CBC was done with peripheral blood smear, they are found to be a Plasmodium falciparum in his blood smear, and that Plasmodium falciparum was suppressed a year back when he started getting fever. See, this is too important to understand, that how this suppression can lead to a dangerous disorder like leukemia. It was a dangerous suppression with the help of chloroquine or whatever medicines which were given at that time, and it suppressed that and led towards the leukemia. And that's why this was very nice case to learn for me, and I have learned a lot from that case. So with the help of that, with the help of a further treatment, he came out of that situation. His count was normal, his blood HB was increasing. It was a very, very good case of a leukemia. So this was my approach. And generally, whenever I used to consider the leukemia cases, specifically a chronic variety I used to get. Acute I have treated, but acute generally never comes to us. I have treated I think 5 or 6 cases of ALL or AML, but a number of cases from the CML and CLL. So I used to consider this Pareto iodide definitely. So my suggestion is that at least go through that remedy. I am not saying that this is the only remedy for the leukemia. There are a number of remedies in our Mater Medica. They are mentioned for the leukemia, and you can think about them also. But one remedy in your mind, in your memory, will increase with the help of that. And that's why my suggestion, it's only for 4-5 sentences, I think so. It is Mater Medica, Borix Mater Medica given is Pareto iodide. But the mother tincture which I will going to share with you is important mother tincture, that is cyanothus. Before going to the cyanothus mother tincture, few more things I want to share. In that, in such cases, whenever anemia is there, I used to give one more suggestion to the patients, when anemia is much more, I ask them to take a bed grass therapy. I know all of you knows that, but it's really helpful because chlorophyll which is there in that definitely helps to recover the anemia, tries to recover the hemoglobin, and that's why wet grass therapy I used to tell to the patients who are having very severe anemia. So that was advised to that patient. I generally ask them to have mm, again a jaggery, that is helpful. I ask them to eat apples, that is also very useful in such types of cases. To stimulate, they helps to increase the energy, uh, as well as to stimulate or increase the hemoglobin. For both purpose they are useful. So these are the two things which are necessary in such types of cases. Now we'll turn towards the today's mother tincture, that is the Cyanothus mother tincture. Cyanothus mother tincture, its common name is New Jersey tea. What Boric has read, learn every sentence from Boric regarding this remedy. You can use it with confidence, and I'm there with you that you use the mother tincture and see the results whenever the splenomegaly is there and marked splenomegaly is there. This remedy seems to possess specific relation to the spleen. A cake of malaria. See, this sentence itself suggests you what exactly it is. It is a cake of malaria, like huge spleen which happens to be there in cases of malaria. But it is not only in malaria. The splenomegaly having even in leukemia. This remedy he has mentioned further in leukemia also. So it is not only malaria. We'll discuss malaria in further lectures. But this remedy is very specifically for huge spleen. What he further said is the left-sided remedy generally anemic patients where liver and spleen are at fault. So anemia is there, the liver is also at fault, the spleen is also at fault. So there is problem with the organic problems with the liver, with the spleen, and a pathology over there associated with anemia, associated with leukemia. First think about the Cyanothus mother tincture. Marked blood pressure, reducing the powers. So hypertension, to reduce the powers, think of Cyanothus. Active hemostatic materially reducing the clotting of the blood. And in that case, the case which I have shared, there was epistaxis as well as bleeding from the gums, which was started later on and controlled with Cyanothus mother tincture. No other hemostatic needed for that case. So this is again one more important indication of the Cyanothus, that it is a good hemostatic. Then abdomen, what he says, enormous enlargement of the spleen, splenitis. It is given in italics. Splenitis, pain all up the left side, and it is given in italics. And this is very important feature of this remedy. So number of times you don't have to even palpate the spleen. You can watch it externally, and that huge spleen, Cyanothus plays very vital role. Generally, in Gaucher's disease also, you can get huge splenomegaly, but hepatosplenomegaly generally in Gaucher's disease, and Gaucher's disease generally happens to be there in early childhood, very early childhood, and the mortality is very marked over there. I was lucky enough to that I got two cases to treat. One case found to be a mortality after 2 years, but the patient who was in absolutely in on the verge of death recovered completely for a year or two and remained with them with the help of one remedy along with Cyanothus mother tincture, that was Calcarea ars, which I have selected for that case. And Calcarea ars, it has been given over there, the enlargement of spleen and liver in children, infants. And you have that single remedy under the rubrics over there. Only Calcarea ars is given. And even in Borix Matremedica, you have the same feature. And that patient came out with the help of a Calcarea ars. and another case was treated and he was very nicely recovered with the same remedy. So you can think about remedies with the pathological angle, with the clinical angle, so that you can never forget such a remedies in your practice. Then what he says, deep-seated pain in the left hypochondrium, hypertrophy of the spleen. It is the pain in left hypochondrium is only because spleen is huge. It is a splenitis, and that splenitis itself is responsible to produce a left hypochondriac pain. And now he says it is leukemia over there. So cyanothus is not a superficially acting remedy, it is a deep acting, having a cancerous miasm over there. So remedy has a penetrating action at specifically at the blood level, and it is useful. Unable to lie on left side, that is the modality of the remedy. It is because of huge spleen, patient is not able to lie on left side, and whenever he lies on left side, there is an aggravation. So that becomes the general modality of the patient, but it is secondary to the huge spleen. Then what is this? Modalities, the general modalities, aggravation by motion, and that is because of overweight, abdomen becomes huge because of spleen and heavy weight over there, and motion aggravates. And second modality is lying on left side aggravates. Dose mentioned by the Boric is first attenuation, and he has mentioned over there locally as a hair tonic, but mother tincture plays very vital role in such types of cases, and I have given mother tinctures to number of cases of the splenomegaly, huge splenomegaly, treated very nicely with the help of cyanothus. So this is what I want to share today regarding the leukemia and my aspect of looking towards the leukemia and to handle the leukemia. I think it's not difficult. When we are firm with our remedies, we are firm with our understanding of the remedies, we are firm with our principles, and we are firm about the understanding of deceased condition, that is leukemia, it's you can handle those cases confidently. My suggestion is that you try for such cases are there. If you have any query, you can put the query, but don't miss those cases. My suggestion is that give the medicine at least. If they are on allopathic treatment, let them continue first, and then gradually when you get confidence that patient is recovered, then you can taper them. It depends upon you. It depends on you, it depends upon patient, it depends upon patient's relatives. All things you have to take into consideration, but my suggestion is that definitely introduce the homeopathy in such cases. And if you introduce such types of cases, that homeopathy plays very vital role in such types of cases, you then people know, yes, homeopathy can cure the cancer. One interesting case I want to share, just I have recollected that it was a case, the person is in Pune and having the same leukemia with a secondary lymphoma which develops over here. It was a secondary. The primary was there in the duodenum, and that case was very difficult to cure. They have started already the chemotherapy, everything, and I have started with homeopathy, and he was ready because he got very severe complications of the chemotherapy, and he was in absolutely weak state after starting the chemotherapy, and I have interfered with homeopathy in that case, and he has taken treatment at least for 1.5 years and cured completely with the help of that. And he has written very good letter to me. In fact, I have shared it with my students in Ithape College, that letter written by him. It was really good. If I get it, I will definitely put it in the group, so that you can also understand the importance of homeopathy. So we can get good price whenever we use our homeopathic remedies in such types of cases. So be confident, start learning more and more remedies of the homeopathy in such a manner, and when you read them again and again, you get a confidence to prescribe them, and fear will disappear. and you become a good homeopath. So till that period, thank you very much. I'll again request to all of you, share our homeopathic knowledge through the YouTube channel and ask them to subscribe and go through the videos so that you can reach to all the peoples and will propagate our homeopathy. Thanks a lot. We'll meet again tomorrow at the same time. Thank you very much.